Yani Neko has been a series that continues to push the envelope each week with its groundbreaking comedy. But this week was something special, as many of the jokes in this episode has some of the deepest Japanese lore you will ever see, and so obscure. And I've got the explanation for pretty much all of it. This one is meaty, so be sure to meet up. It's Christmas in July, and Gamer Supps has the hookup. When you use my code SeaTactics, you get a free item for every GG tub purchase up to 6. That's up to 6 free items just by using my code, which also gets you a 10% discount and at the very least 1 free waifu cup. My recommendation continues to be Jujutsu Kaisen Cursed Energy, JoJo's Stone Ocean Juice, or whatever you truly desire. The cold open for this episode was absurd and insane, and I loved it. The whole joke here is that Yani Neko doesn't want to put out a cigarette to save a drowning child's life, to the point she even tells the kid to wait up, yeah. She tells the kid to wait until the cigarette is short enough to put out. I mean, this cat's priorities are so out of whack, and to make things even worse, when she does jump into the river and saves the child, she immediately wants to be paid in cigarettes from a child. She expects a child to go into a store and buy her death sticks. Like, the absurdity is unreal. She is so out of touch. And of course, because Yani Neko is a freak, she breathes in the kid's face, cutting their appreciation of the moment short. The normal thing would be to drop the cig and jump in, but Yani Neko doesn't care about, I guess, human life or just being a good person. She wants the nicotine in her lungs, to the point saving lives becomes a second priority at best. Honestly, she's just the worst, and that's exactly, is that not exactly why we love her? She's just an asshole. And speaking of, wait, that's a terrible segue. And not speaking of, Imoko is out on a date with her friends when they bring up the urban legend that the meat in burgers is from Beastfolk. And when they find a cigarette in her borber, she freaks out thinking it's Yani Neko, her own sister. I mean, this is hilarious because she actually believes that it could be her, when in reality, she's not far off. She's actually working there as a temp. But either way, it is pretty dark that a rumor is spread around that the meat is Beastfolk. Imagine eating at Burger King and having a rumor going around that they make the Borbers out of humans. Could just be a spooky story altogether, but with how the series is written, I imagine this could also be a commentary on how society chews up the Beastfolk into mincemeat. The justification for that analysis is simply because, I mean, look at Yani Neko and all the other Beastfolk. They aren't allowed to have permanent jobs, so when there is no job security in this world for Beastfolk or equal rights, then the natural outcome is inequality and poorer Beastfolk being ground down into ground meat for corporations. But this is also, factually, a real-life reference to how strict with regulations there are in Japan regarding foreign objects in their food. Even a single report of a foreign object can lead to a nationwide voluntary product recall, public apologies that are so extensive that corporate executives will appear on television to do so. So just this cigarette, if reported, would have led to an even more likely catastrophic stock drop and lowered consumer trust. That's just for that. I could also go into so much more detail on this joke and talk about the X-rays, the metal detectors, optical sorters, air jets, stringent gowning, clean rooms, strict labeling, allergen and foreign material risk disclosure, absolute 100% truth and how they advertise, and even more. I could do that, but we would be here until Kingdom Come. So yeah, easily one of the best jokes in the series thus far. Pretty cool, right? While you're at it, join my Discord server. So a big question I've had until this episode was how they'd introduce more human characters besides the landlord into the plot of Yani Neko. I'm excited to say that it's just as you'd think it to be. A big-breasted, nerdy mangaka who creates hentai for a living. Very accurate, by the way. This is about the most artist thing ever, and once again is why I really enjoy Yani Neko. It's rarely explored that most mangaka you know and love today, and I mean a vast majority of them, got their start in hentai. For example, Miss Kobayashi Kobayashi's Dragon Maid is a prolific hentai artist who doesn't mind having his name connected to both. This is mostly because it is actually the best way as an artist to make money and make a living. It is no different than, say, a Twitter artist drawing hentai or pornography to make a living, which several of my actual real-life friends do. And yes, a lot of them are degenerates, but some of them aren't either. A lot of them are just normal people. In fact, most all of them are kind of normal, even if they're degenerates. It's just that it's so hard to make it on your merit of your art alone that you have to sometimes do hentai to pay the bills. Phrasing. But setup aside, let's actually get to this character. Her name is Saori, and for some reason, she looks a little like Himino from Chainsaw Man, which frightens me. Is it because I'm obsessed with Himino? Is it because I'm afraid I might like Saori? Tough to say. But as it so turns out, Yani Neko has a talent that she is really good at, which is being an assistant for Saori on her manga. I love this reveal for her as a character because while it's just being an assistant, it's a very detail-oriented job, something we know Yani Neko isn't always the best at, so thumbs up. And better yet, it seems as if she gets along with Saori and vice versa, as Yani Neko is so easygoing, it allows Saori to be comfortable as her introverted self. However, like all things, Yani Neko cannot give up the ghost. Her addiction once again stops her from having a good thing going, Walta. The comedy comes when she nearly fools Saori by holding her face up to the page. Now this was hilarious because once again, Yani Neko proves she may be a slob, but she's a photogenic slob. But this is all just a ploy to lay the foundation for the next joke in the episode and tie us along, which may be one of my favorites in the series, honestly, for how layered it was. But basically every joke in this episode was. This was just a fantastic episode. Let's go ahead and get into it. The implication here is that to spare Imoko from being used as reference for her manga, that instead, Yani Neko would dress up in a schoolgirl uniform and model for Saori. The thing I found weird was like, Saori girl, you don't gotta get Yani Neko to strip for you. Okay, you are doing God's work not because she's attractive, oh no. Saori, her clothes stink to high hell, and wearing a school uniform is such a better look and smell on her, so good job. Sound off in the comments. Well, this joke either way was fantastic. I loved it. Basically, Saori leads Yani Neko around the neighborhood to get photos for her next hentai manga, which will feature outdoor sex. As it so turns out, to everyone else, what they're seeing is a woman ordering a high school girl around for her sex manga while she is smoking. So when they get to the park, while there are kids watching, mind you, they do a pretty illegal photo shoot. And I do mean illegal. Yani Neko rips off her top, pretends that the banana is a really big peel, sticking out her disgusting tongue and everything. The scene is quite literally guts-bloating hilarious. A nice detail though is that Saori notices it's hard for it is difficult for Yani Neko to look distressed. Think about that for a moment. She can't look distressed because cats don't really have a distressed look. They give that off through overall body language. But when it comes to giving off the looks of wanting something, oh, she's good at that. Too good at that. I was giving my cat like some treats 5 minutes ago, and you should have saw little Lum. She was rip-roaring. She immediately zoomed across the room to the spot where I feed her the most and was just jumping all over me. Well, Saori escalates things by bringing Yani Neko to an outdoor toilet because it's dirty there, which adds to the overall excitement. Which, if you think about it, those bathrooms are likely cleaner than Yani Neko is on any given Monday. Well, Imoko comes by and sees them go into the bathroom, and suddenly police escort them out. Imoko's reactions always are the best. It's mostly just the same thing, but I can't get over it. But it's just so sad that her sister is just such a fudge up. She is clearly trying her best to overcome the hurdles in their relationship, but sometimes she's got to roll with the punches and tell her friends that that's not her sister. Her sister was the hamburger they ate back at the Burger King. However, and I cannot wait to see how people react to this in the comments, this scene confirms that there is slavery in the world of Yani Neko. It is confirmed through the police that Saori was seen as Yani Neko's owner. So, as a side note, there are a couple people every now and again that I'm noticing, specifically with this series, oddly enough, which I find peculiar, that they don't think this series is political in nature. So when or other creators comments on the politics and the commentary on deeper subjects in this series, they legit have meltdowns over it. Thankfully, thankfully happens like 1 in every 100 comments, so not too much. Obviously, more are gonna pipe in now because I mentioned it, but yeah, if you are one of the bros that says Yani Neko isn't political, then you probably don't know what you're talking about. Comedy by the nature of existence is political, so I don't want to hear no where's the politics coming from, bro. But with this being confirmed, it then puts into question the other episodes we've seen, giving previous jokes actually an entirely new layer to analyze them from. For example, the temp jobs that Beastfolks have and how every cat we're seeing has some sort of mental health issue or are completely broken individuals. Hame Neko comes to mind because of how she wants to be a streamer and feel special and validated. There are no real rules on the internet, and while she gets reported, it just adds to the tragedy and likability of Hame Neko by the end of the episode. Either way, Kansai Neko is the one who somehow gets the short end of the stick here, because she's up next and is forced to model for Saori. Well, I say forced, but Kansai loves, at first, the attention she is getting from Saori from being a model. That is until she rips open her vest and proceeds to direct her to act as if she is a virgin about to be defiled. Nothing more to say about that scene other than Saori is goon maxing. So, my god, you guys, this was cinema. The Mahjong Parlor scene is by far one of the funniest things I've seen in my life. This scene is hilarious. We're introduced to Kazushi, the head of some Yakuza clan with his underlings Katsurada and Shibata. Yani Neko is apparently a part of this too. She is delivering the boss his strawberry milk and has a certified Kobeni moment. Second Chainsaw Man reference, yes. And spills the milk on his stupid bald head. The boss then tells him to remember to treat civilians with the utmost respect. Now this is smart and a good layer to the joke, because this is how the Yakuza actually act. Because the Yakuza are embedded sorta within the government of Japan itself in many ways. They have so much money and political capital that to cause trouble to normal people would then force the police and force the PSIA, the Public Security Intelligence Agency, to actually do more than just give them slaps on the wrist. It's an example of how the Yakuza are able to manipulate so effectively by simply laying low and being generally hidden from the public. This is why men or women with tattoos in Japan are seen as being a part of the Yakuza as well, because they lay so low that one of the only identifiable markers outside of things like casinos and the like is their tattoos. Obviously, there are other reasons. I'm a white dude from America, so I'm going to be ham-fisted at best with some of my research here, but that's kind of the gist from a foreigner's perspective. Well, Kazushi says that they should cut her slack because after all, they've known Yani Neko since she was a child, so she's like a daughter to the organization and himself. A big-breasted cat daughter who doesn't wear a bra or any underwear and has every single curve in all the right places. Yep, Kazushi is a pervert, and at his age, I guess he still got it because Yani Neko causes him to get an erection that damn near blows a hole through the table. I'm not sure what it is about these cat girls and making old bald men horny. I'm also unsure of why they're all carrying around third legs in their trousers. Either way, when Hame Neko comes in, Shibata has to sit down himself because, as it so turns out, he too has a giant dong bursting with excitement. 4 flat-chested women, specifically cat women. So they instead decide to hang out at the table for a little while longer. Men, if you're having trouble in bed, I guess, well, if you're an old bald man, just get Yani Neko to come over. She'll fix you right up in no time. She's more potent than today's sponsor, Blue Chew. Okay, this is not this video's sponsor, but I am interested. I really need the money, so if you are watching, email me. We have a new cat, people. This time it's a new schoolgirl of all things, and she's, for some reason, choosing to hang around Yani Neko. Her name is Jikaki Neko. Now, I did my best research I could, and what I found is that it more or less means Novelist Neko. So this continues the trend of really very simple but clever names for the cats. Well, Jikaki Neko is clearly the writer of her own story, which she tries to sell as not hers to Yani Neko, because she's not confident. She also has these interesting observations and perceptions on art that are very relatable, like how it's unoriginal to follow templates, as an example. She feels such stories are kind of played out, they're a little boring, and she wants to create her own story, The Melancholy of Dragon Major, which is supposed to be a true fantasy. So that's to say it's not like an isekai, it's more akin to something like Lord of the Rings. But Yani Neko doesn't get it and tells her to write something about exiles as her disgusting farts sends Jikaki Neko running. Now this feels like just the introduction of a character we will be seeing much more of later in the series, mostly because at the end she leaves and looks a little depressed because her work didn't impress Yani Neko, and also because she was so unsure of herself initially that she had to tell Yani Neko that this story was her friend's and not hers. This combined with their newcomer kind of attitude on how to make her own art and finding her own way kind of suggests that she's not confident and needs more experience in writing. A big pull for younger creators typically is the idea of this pure version of the thing they typically consume. This is because the more pure something is, like a fantasy or whatever genre, the more legitimate it feels and thus misguides more green artists. I hope I explained that well. Well, let me put it this way. I was just like Jikaki Neko at one point in my life too. My ideals on how to create art were that it must be certain ways, as those certain ways felt more legitimate. What I found out later on is those templates and those formulas I hated were simply just tools to help create an art that I myself would be proud of. Sure, some of it is used for mass appeal, but for the most part, it's just a matter of finding the formula that allows you to be yourself. The process of making the art is much more important than the end product itself almost every time. But that's just my perception of it. I'm sure I'm wrong. So I actually had to do a little bit of research for this next joke. It's pretty detailed because it involves a lot of lore. So way back in the day, there was this whole debacle that happened at a weekly magazine called Friday. It's still running, it's being published by Kodansha to this very day. It contains celebrity gossip, some political commentary, news, just random stuff you'd expect. Well, get this, 1986, Friday ended up publishing this article that alleged a famous TV personality named Takeshi Kitano was having some sort of affair with a college student. Now, if this name doesn't sound familiar, his face should. Kitano-san most notably plays Kitano in Battle Royale, and before that in Hanabi as Yoshitaka Nishi. He is seriously one of the best actors of all time, and he has so many other works that you guys should check out. So Kitano, reading this, was absolutely furious as he believed he was being harassed, which is funny. So, the fact this happened is insane. He got together a group of people. He went to the Friday offices where they basically did this and were charged with crimes. Minus the guns, of course. So the entire thing really is just a rip on this incident. Kizushi is then shot, but he survives it because he had an issue of the magazine in his clothing which blocked the bullets. On the cover is none other than The Land of the Lustrous, an anime manga I actually used to do videos for like 10 years ago. It's an absolute must-watch and must-read, especially if you like Yani Neko. The reference in question, though, is the main character Phos, or Phospholite, with cat ears. As well, the magazine that was used in this joke is Manga, which is a reference to Weekly Young magazine where Yani Neko is actually published. And as well, Kakuyomu is published in Weekly Young magazine too. So the layer to that joke from the scene prior is throwing daggers at Kakuyomu, which is kind of hilarious because it's also getting an adaptation this season too, the same as Yani Neko. But on to the next joke where Kazushi is on his deathbed. But when his hands graze the breasts of Yani Neko, he gets such a powerful, raging erection that quite literally brings him back to life and into rip-roaring shape. This entire setup was great. But I couldn't help but laugh seeing him pitching that insane tent. Plus, it's cool to see that there is tech in this world that will tell you when something is healthy in the shape of a cat. Very on brand for this world and another dystopian kind of thing. Oh, viewer, poor Hame Neko. Her stream and her streaming career is really destined to be a failure, especially once we saw that comment that was saying they were standing by naked. Well, the idea behind this stream was to show off her home full of hotties, starting with Kansai Neko, who comes up with maybe one of the worst jokes ever. Zoom into Saturday morning, which I couldn't find any info on, but seems to be some sort of outdated joke from some TV show. So Hame Neko, while Kansai whines about getting another shot, goes to Aru Neko, where she gets a warning for showing underage drinking because her chat starts to report her. She then makes a horrible choice going to Yaku Neko, who is using a hookah and smoking some very clearly illegal drugs. Of course, since we know Yaku's track record, it very much checks out. Hame Neko is then kicked out and gets another warning. So she goes to Saori, who immediately does her perverted shtick, so she leaves. Then she goes to Yani Neko, where the room is absolutely filthy, so she goes outside to find Yani Neko eating a bee's nest and bees because she needs to cleanse her palate from smoking too much. I love how all of the cats just act 100% like cats. It's one of the best things about this series. But out of complete luck, she goes to the landlord's apartment where she finds something horrible. She's immediately banned after catching him going to town on Catherine, which is the name of the sex doll. Yes, Catherine with a C. Hame Neko is one of those girls who just aren't as interesting as they think they may be or want to be, but they don't need to be. They're trying to appeal to the internet to get their validation, but in reality, all she really needs is herself and her friends for that validation, or rather, better friends than these. But that's all why I sort of think Hame Neko is one of the more underrated cats. It's easier to relate to Hame Neko because of her constant search for that validation. I'm sure we've all been there, but I remember when I was younger and there was this period of time where that's really what I wanted. When it ended, I looked back on that period and was able to fully realize what I needed, which was a sense of connection with people, which is the typical sort of outcome for that particular problem. So I guess I get it, which is why I like her as a character. She's just like me, for real, for real. Maybe I shouldn't say that out loud into a microphone on the internet. Also, I'm definitely not a content creator with a massive ego, rage issues, and a crippling sex addiction. And the only way to find out is if I have any of those things is to watch this handy playlist of all of my Chainsmoker cat videos. Make it a great day or not, the choice is yours.